Rated M for mature.
Don't let your kids watch it!
Hey there, Artie!
So, welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry Chapter 4, everybody. So last time we saved the kid from the infamous gang of Kid Napper and his cronies. However, after Uisi came to the rescue and chased the guys away, Akasaka collapsed and fell unconscious. So whether Uisi's going to be able to get us and the kid to safety, or the kidnappers are going to come back and attack again, I don't know. But that's what we're going to find out today. End of Chapter 4 in Chapter 4. That's funny. Let's go. That was my first time losing consciousness. You often hear of regaining consciousness on top of a bed, but this was my first time actually experiencing it. Oh, never mind. We did get out, and it's Coach. Coach in his bussin' doctor's outfit. Let's go. I never thought I'd be happy to see you, Coach, but I sure am. Because it means we got out to safety. Also, fun fact, if you fall unconscious in real life, generally speaking, you're going to come to within, like, a minute or so. Like, if you actually are unconscious for, like, I think it's, like, 10 minutes or so. Like, if you're unconscious for 10 or so minutes, like, you're probably going to have brain damage after recovering. Outside of things like being induced into, like, being knocked out with drugs or something. But, like, if you're just, like, collapse on the ground because of, well, in Akasaka's case, probably head trauma, since he got beaten in the head with multiple, like, rocks. Unless Uisi, like, light-speeded to Endor to get us here, and we were immediately admitted, I feel like this is maybe a tad unrealistic. But that's none of my business. Realizing that I was awake, a young doctor called out to me. I didn't intend to respond, but it seems my body language had told him I was conscious. My head was wrapped in bandages. Yep. The scratches all over my body had also been treated. My sense of pain also returned with my consciousness, causing me to groan from the intense pain shooting all throughout me. Yep, the adrenaline is worn off, so now you're going to be facing pain. Yeah, that cursed kidnapper. He can hit harder than I thought.
24時間は特に安静にして容体を見守りたいところです。ここは私の診療所です。入江と申します。よろしく。
Can I call you Coach? Well, I'm not even a coach. Why are you saying that? No, I'm calling you Coach. I remembered that this young doctor was the one in the car headed the opposite way earlier.
誰かいませんか？大石さんは。
あ、呼んできましょう。
No, he has this thing called a job, so he had to go back to work.
診療所の中は禁煙なんで、表で吸ってもらってるんです。
Oishi's like, you can't smoke anywhere these days. Dr. Erie left the room to go call Uisi. The scenery outside the window was tinted with gold. The pouring rain had stopped, with the voices of the Higurashi heralding the cooling temperature. I felt that the tone of the Higurashi's voice was comforting. Eventually, I could hear heavy footsteps coming closer, which I reckoned to be Uisi's. The fog was enveloping my head, and slowly faded back to reality. What had happened since then? What had happened to the boy? What about the reinforcements from Tokyo? The door to the room flew open, allowing Dr. Erie and Uisi to enter.
じゃあ、命に別状はないんでしょ？
ないとお約束はできません。
That's maybe not the case.
頭に受けた傷は所見だけでは判断が危険なのです。
Yeah, that's what happens when you get beat in the face with multiple rocks.
わかりました。ちょいと彼と二人で話がしたいんですが。
We gotta talk about some confidential government stuff.
ええ、どうぞ。何かありましたらお呼びください。
They do have like security cameras in here. Like you can't leave. Well, maybe I guess you can. Maybe it was a different time back in the 80s. Uisi, after basically forcing Dr. Erie outside, shut the door.
いかがですか、お具合は。
慣れないことをしたんで全身がボロボロです。
What about you? What about you, Uisi? You got beat up a bit too. I'm built different. Uisi brought over a folding chair that was leaning against the wall and sat down beside the bed.
犯人たちは逮捕されましたか？
残念ながら。
Oh, no, they made the great escape.
とっくに県外へ逃げたか、村人にかくまわれているかのどちらかでしょうね。
That does mean they didn't come back for the boy, though.
まあ、逃がしゃしませんが。
Yeah, Uisi, now, he's seen their faces. So he knows what they look like, so may only be a matter of time.
大臣の孫は
署で保護しています。ただ、東京のあなたのご同僚から一切の聴取は取るなと釘を刺されたらしいですよ。しげちゃんが憤慨してましたっけ？
Yeah. The kidnapping was a confidential matter, so his custody was probably also being kept under wraps. How the kidnapping of the minister's grandson would be handled, how it would be covered up, treated like it never happened, would be handled by the brass. If this case ended without the nation going into an uproar about it, then our job had been done. The possibility that the minister had negotiated with the perpetrators couldn't be ruled out. But something like that was no longer my concern. My role in this case was over.
ご迷惑をおかけします。公安ってやつはいやらしいところだって思ってるでしょ。
思いません思いません。お互い日の丸から給金もらって仕事してるだけですよ。
Yep. Uisi laughed boisterously. When we first met, I was somewhat prejudiced against Uisi, but now that feeling was gone completely.
今回の事件隠さないで大事にしてくれた方がこっちは都合がいいんですけどね。
Yeah, I gotta say, Uisi, he's got some habits I'm not a fan of, but he has come in very clutch in this chapter. And honestly, I've kind of been a fan of him in the previous chapters too, where it seems like he's genuinely trying to put an end to, like, these crazy goings-on. So, like, I'm a fan of Uisi. He's a cool character. I wish he didn't like Hooters as much, and he didn't smoke as much, but, we all have our faults.
そうすれば黒幕の園崎本家に少しは迫れるんですが、まあ適当に迫ったところで圧力がかかるんでしょうがね。やれやれです。
大石さんは園崎本家に今後も戦いを？
まさか。
He's like, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
いろいろと黒い噂こそ絶えませんがね。園崎家に恨みがあるわけじゃありませんので、君子危うきに近寄らない方がいいんですよ。
Yeah, that's true.
ね。
But justice must be served. Uisi laughed happily, and I couldn't help but laugh along.
あ、そうだそうだ。
That'll hurt your
さ
head.
っき県警から署に連絡があったそうです。あなたのご同僚が名古屋に到着したそうで、今車でこちらへ向かっているそうです。あなたは名誉の負傷ですから、東京へ引き上げだそうですよ。
Yeah.
そんなわけです。はあ、お疲れ様でし
I
た。
hope my wife still loves me even though I'm banged up now.
あなたの沖宮での仕事は無事終了です。
I was being recalled to Tokyo. I inadvertently breathed a sigh of relief when I heard those words.
大石さんのご協力に
Yeah.
深く感謝します。
It is not a lie to say we could not have done this without Uisi.
あなたに支払った協力金は無駄にはなりませんでしたね。
You can just keep the corrupt taxpayer money. That's fine.
あら、冗談のつもりだったんだけどな。
Uh-oh. Uisi took out his wallet, casually pulled out several large bills, and jammed them into the breast pocket of my shirt. Oh, hey! What a nice
これは
guy!
協力金の返済では
Oh,
な
okay.
いですよ。私からあなたへのお小遣いです。
We gotta get our wife and our future kid a souvenir. By the way, okay, so I was under the impression our wife was in labor this entire time, but apparently she still is not in labor. She's just like chilling at the hospital for like a week plus, waiting for like... Can you do that? I'm pretty sure even in Japan you can't do that. I don't even know what's going on.
この辺は地酒がうまいんでね。東京へのお土産にこいつで買っていくといいでしょう。
Nah, buy a souvenir for your kid. it's like Akasaka's kid's born. It's like Papa, why do we have this why do we have this coloring book of a town we've never been to? Well, when I went on a trip to Okinomiya, I found that in the souvenir stall, and I knew you'd like it. Yeah. You hope Artie's okay? Are you able to hear me? Sorry, if there's something going on with the stream, please let me know, because if there is, I am unaware. Also, if there's someone going on with the stream and I don't fix it now, that's gonna make video editing impossible. So, I am doing fine, by the way. I mean, I have a dentist appointment tomorrow, which is not gonna be great, but other than that, should be nice. No, I'm looking at the volume levels on OBS. Everything should be working fine. So, Uisi flashed me a grin.
もしもあなたの傷が軽いようなら東京へ帰る前にぜひ声をかけてくださいよ。おやつさんも佐藤さんもぜひあなたともう一度タコを囲みたいと言ってましたからね。
Okay. Well, again, my wife's gonna have a kid, so.
やれやれ。参ったな。
今度はこっちも小細工抜きです。純粋に楽しもうじゃないですか。
よく言いますよ。
They do.
原則の警官があんなに濃い様ができるなんて。世も末る。
That's true.
私どもとね、対等以上に打てるメンツにはなかなかお会いできないもんです。あなたが東京に帰るのが惜しいですよ。
That's where I belong. When I heard the words going back to Tokyo from Uisi, I was reminded once again that I was relieved from my duties. Soon, Yuki would be giving birth. It might still be possible to attend the delivery that I had at one time given up on. When I thought that, the pain from my injuries became trivial. I wanted to hurry back to Tokyo and see Yuki at once.
少し傷が重いふりをして沖宮にしばらく滞在しません？
Bruh, I'm not missing my kid's birthday. Literal. So I can play Mahjong with you guys.
いいお店をいろいろ紹介しますよ。
I don't want to go to Hooters.
もちろん、おごれなんて言いません。
申し訳ないですが、それはまたの機会にします。妻の出産日が近いんでね。早く帰りたいんです。
ありゃりゃ。それは知らなかった。
Yeah, you didn't mention that to anybody.
それじゃあこんなとこにいちゃいけない。
Yeah, see, he's a bro. He knows that. He's like, I didn't know you were married. I feel real bad about taking you to Hooters now.
早く帰らないといけません。
Let's go. Uisi's a real bro. He's a real one. For a while after that, Uisi asked all sorts of questions about my wife, teasing and bantering with me.
さて、具合はどうです？おきれいそうですか？
ええ。おかげさまで悪くないです。
Coach is like, excuse me, you have to stay in bed.
立って歩いても全然平気ですよ。
I stood up and shuffled around for a bit, which seemed to amuse Uisi.
いえいえ、ひなみ沢の病院では落ち着かないでしょうと思いまして。入江の先生は一晩泊まらせたいみたいなこと言ってますが、犯人もまだ捕まってませんし、一応ここはあなたにとっては敵地になりますからね。
Okay, it looks like people can actually see the stream now. That was really stupid. I literally selected this given broadcast and started streaming. It said I was streaming, no problem. It showed that I was streaming, no problem. And yet, apparently it wasn't streaming. Man, I freaking hate YouTube and just streaming in general sometimes. But, well, there we go. Hi, everybody. Hey, Shirley. Hey, Proxima. Apparently, nobody could see what I was doing, so I've been playing this for like 15 minutes or so. I can catch everybody up. So basically, after last time, we got knocked out unconscious in the woods. I was worried Kidnapper and his goons were going to get the kid again. Nope, turns out the kid is safe in custody at the train station. Uisi brought me to the hospital. Coach was taking care of me. And so we've just kind of been going back and forth. Uisi's been a great guy. He, like, gave us some money, like, for spending money, and we're telling him, like, oh, yeah, our wife is due any day now, and he's like, oh, dude, you gotta get back to Tokyo, because, like, your job is done now, and, like, your guys, like, learned that you got injured in the woods and, like, are bandaged up, and now they're sending you back to Tokyo, and so we're like, yes, maybe we can actually be there in time for the birth, which is great. And, yeah, that's what has happened here. So, now that you're caught up, any Rika news? No Rika news. It started, we opened up in the hospital, Coach was basically like, yeah, your head was really badly injured, there might be lasting damage, but, like, you're alive. And then, like, Uisi was here, and he's like, hey, Coach, get out of here, I want to talk to him privately. And, yeah, it's just basically been some, like, man, you're a good bro talk. The thing is, I did record all of it. Even if it didn't stream properly, I did record it all. So when I upload the VODs to YouTube, you guys will get to see all of the scenes that you missed. And I'll just have to cut out this part later. Anyhow, on to business.
この病院は安全ではないと
まあ、入江の先生も多少は社会的信用のあるお人
He
です。
seems competent, but he also has an unhealthy obsession with certain things.
ここにいる限りは何もないとは思いますが、赤坂さんの気分的にめいらないかという方が問題ですね。
Uh-oh. I had relaxed a bit now that things had progressed this far, but it was exactly as Uisi had said. When I realized that this was enemy territory, I suddenly felt uncomfortable. With leaving being the only thing left for me to do, the chance that I would come to any harm was logically fairly low. But that didn't mean I was completely safe.
そうですね。横になっているだけならホテルのベッドでも同じな気がします。
そうでしょう、そうでしょう。私もその方がいいと思います。
Yeah, we gotta get back to our hotel room. It's still our room. At that moment, I caught a glimpse of the clock over Uisi's shoulder. It was the evening. The hours when I would call Yuki at the hospital were almost over. I wanted to tell her as quickly as possible that I would soon be back at her side.
ちょっと雪江の病院に電話してきます。ロビーに公衆電話とかはありませんか？
It's a hospital. Of course there's gonna be a phone.
新婚さんはそういうの豆だな。確か会計の脇にあったと思います。ここで待ってますから、行ってらっしゃい、行ってらっしゃい。
Uisi, laughing while saying that he was jealous, opened up the window and pulled out a cigarette, even though he was in a hospital room. Doggone it, Uisi, you can't smoke in here! Appreciative at how considerate Uisi was, I set out to the lobby to find the phone. Yeah, but Erie's gonna stop us. Oh, they still have the good old dinosaur guy. The lobby was just a short distance down the hallway from the hospital room. I thought that this hospital was a bit too grand for a village like this, but of course it was nothing compared to the general hospital Yuki was admitted to. Running inside a hospital wasn't the best of manners, but calling hours would end soon, so I dashed over in a hurry. There was nobody else in the lobby. It may have been the evening, but there was nobody at the reception desk. Well, this might actually be lucky for me. I wasn't planning to have a conversation to feel guilty about, but it would still be embarrassing to have someone listen to the conversation between me and Yuki. Taking a quick look around, I soon found the payphone. Digging around in my pockets, I grabbed a few coins. I was calling Tokyo from here, so I would burn through this amount fairly quickly. I picked up the receiver and inserted a coin, then dialed the number for Yuki's hospital, which I had completely memorized at this point. Yeah, good on you! I definitely wouldn't have been that smart. The number for Yuki's hospital had a lot of 8s and 9s, so dialing it in inevitably took some time. Normally, I wouldn't be that big of a deal, but currently, any time was precious. However, I felt that something was strange as I was dialing in the number. I don't know exactly how to put it, but it was as if the receiver was too quiet. That unique white noise from the telephone line wasn't there. Oh, is Sissel going through the line? Somehow, I felt that I wasn't getting any feedback from the phone, and without feeling a response, I hung up the receiver to try again. The coin popped out from the return slot. I reinserted the coin and began dialing once again, but the receiver was still dead silent.
なんだこれ。
Yeah, there are no nurses. It's Coach's clinic. Only coaches here.
断線でもしてるのかな。
While I was wasting time like this, the amount of time I had spent talking to Yuki had shrunk. I began to feel needlessly impatient.
すみません。
I felt the presence of someone on the other side of the glass, so I called out. There was an immediate response, and a man who seemed like a pharmacist came over.
はいはい。どうなさいましたか？
すみません。この電話の調子がおかしくて、ちょっと見てもらえますか？
The man came over and tried testing various things with the receiver pressed to his ear. Come to think of it, this was someone who worked at the hospital, not someone from the phone company. Just as I didn't know much about phones, neither would he.
あれ？なんだこれ？
The man held up the cord that connected the phone to the wall. It was completely severed.
なんだこれ？
Who cut the phone line? Was it Jar Jar Binks? Doggone it, Jar Jar.
参ったな。
Yeah, I mean, Akasaka's just like, pain? What's that? My wife's gonna give birth soon.
これじゃ電話会社の人に直してもらわないとどうにもならないですね。電話でしたら事務室のを使います？
I was about to say surely Uisi has a cell phone, but then I remembered the time period this was in. I still didn't want the people in the hospital office around while I was talking.
近所に公衆電話はありませんか？
ここを出て道なりに行くと商店街に出ます。そこのどこかの角のタバコ屋にあったような気がするな。行けば見つけられると思いますよ。
I was dressed in a hospital gown. I was wearing sandals on my feet. My head was wrapped in bandages. Just looking at me, you could tell I was a hospital patient. No matter how you looked at it, I was not dressed to be wandering outside. But that's where the impetuousness of youth came in. Choosing the chance to talk to Yuki for even a little longer, I headed outside in my current state. This is going to be a trap. Why else would the phone line be cut? Following the road to the shopping district. Should be able to find that one soon enough. With only those 2 lines as my guide, I ran outside the gates of the hospital. With the village nestled in a valley, when the sun set, it got dark quickly. The sparse streetlights lit up enough to start attracting moths. The Higurashi, knowing their time for their chorus was soon at a close, redoubled their fragile cries. Finding the payphone wasn't as easy as the person at the hospital had suggested. Was it still up ahead? Did I miss it already? Was I just getting farther away? Just as I was about to be crushed by the wave of uncertainty towering over me, I found a shop on the corner with cigarettes written on a small sign. My joy spurred me onwards. Just as I had heard at the hospital, sat next to the counter of the cigarette shop was an antiquated payphone. I wasn't wearing a watch, so I didn't know what time it was. I probably didn't have much time left, though. But it was enough. Just as long as I could tell Yuki my job was done and I would be coming home soon. Picking up the receiver, I slid a coin down the slot. But I felt that something was strange, just like at the hospital. If somebody cut every single phone line, then somebody has a problem. Even after inserting the coin, the phone showed no response. I hung up the receiver and tried putting the coin in one more time, but there was absolutely no response. This phone was dead. It couldn't be. Thinking that, I felt along the cord that protruded from the back of the phone. Doing that, my hands found the end of a completely severed line. Who cut all the phone lines? It couldn't have just been Jordan. Maybe Super Grover is on this too. What is this? Having now had the same thing happen twice, my bafflement was accompanied by a sense of unease. It seemed that the cord had been severed cleanly by a sharp blade of some sort. And I may be mistaken, but it didn't look like much time had passed since it was cut.
すみません。
I would just get out of there now.
すみません。
Call a taxi. Hi, Mari. Welcome to the stream. Now that the stream is actually going. Opening up the booth window to the tobacco shop, I looked for someone in the dimly lit interior. Eventually, there were the sounds of somebody plodding down the stairs, and an old lady appeared. The old lady's plodding and lethargic steps, for some reason, only served to make me more frantic.
タバコですかいね。小さまでねんと、わがねのしゃ。
If this is Oreo.
タバコを買いたいわけじゃないんです。この電話が。
Realizing that saying the phone was broken and asking them to take a look at it was going to get me nowhere, I swallowed back my words.
この電話が壊れてるみたいなんで。別の公衆電話があるところを教えてもらいたいのですが。
Dude, you don't see a pattern? He's gonna just be like, I'm gonna go down to each payphone and go down the trap until Oreo kills you. Clearly, the advertisers want everyone to buy mobile phones back in the 70s. Yep, we solved it. There we go. It's an alternate timeline where cell phones were invented a couple decades earlier. The old lady moved her jaw up and down slowly, as if chewing on the meaning of my words. It seemed that she wouldn't understand until she had digested things thoroughly.
電話、壊れてますかいね。
It's either late 70s or early 80s.
そんな難儀だわ。他の公衆電話を当たってください。
The old lady directed me to another payphone that seemed quite a ways away. Do not go there. Her way of telling me was so long-winded that I inadvertently started to get impatient. At that moment, I spotted a clock in the dim interior of the store. The minute hand was just about to point straight up. Even if there was a phone right here that I could use, I would probably only be able to tell Yuki good night with the time I had left. On top of that, my destination was a remote payphone which I didn't know the exact distance to. If I was of a normal state of mind, deciding to give up the phone today would have been a natural thought process. Do not be a big idiot and go to the phone. But at that moment, I had become somewhat stubborn for some reason. It's almost like this is a plot convenience, forcing you to go here so the plot can happen. Unable to use the phone in the hospital and coming out here and still being unable to use one. Also, Uisi's waiting for you. There was no mistaking that I had become quite insistent on using a phone.
どうもありがとうございます。その電話ボックス、探してみます。
Refusing her offer to draw me a map, I left the tobacco shop. Nobody's commenting that this guy with head bandages everywhere is very suspiciously, um, definitely not supposed to be here, but, still is. What's going on here? According to the old lady, even though the phone booth is quite far away, it would be easy to find. Main chapters are 1983, this is 1978. Okay. If I followed this road straight down, I'd eventually find it. Sandals flapping as I ran, I couldn't help but laugh at myself. I'll admit that I was quite steadfast about calling Yuki. But there were days that when I was tired or busy, when I wouldn't call her. Even today, my entire body was covered with injuries and I was dead tired. On top of that, there wasn't much time left. It wouldn't be strange at all if today was one of those days I didn't call her. But having twice been foiled trying to call her, I became hot-headed about it. Was I like a dog who was being told to stay with a piece of food dangled in my face?
何やってんだろうな。
Yeah, probably just a normal day. We're definitely not going to get ambushed by Kidnapper and his goons. Even so, I somehow couldn't quell the uneasy feeling sitting in the pit of my stomach. It was like that with the hospital phone, and the same as the one in the tobacco shop. Both cords were definitely not severed from being frayed by long years of use. The clean cuts indicated that someone had taken something sharp and deliberately cut them. So why are you going to the next phone? But who, and for what reason? The more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt, so I tried to push the thought aside. How much had I run so far? The scenery around me was no longer that of a shopping district, with residential buildings scattered about the lonely road. The surroundings had already grown dark. I was blatantly out too far for a quick phone call, and it was quite obvious I was far removed from the hospital. We're going to meet Rika, and she's probably going to be creepy again. I recalled the clock I saw at the tobacco shop. It might almost be time. I had run for quite a bit, so my breathing had grown quite ragged. If I had just wanted to hear Yuki's voice, I should have just thrown away my reservations and borrowed the phone in the office. Yeah, you could have done that! I regretted it a little. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. Well then, was it about time to give up? Just when I thought that, I saw the light in front of me. I had finally found it. It was a phone booth. It seemed that the light in the phone... This is right next to the swamp where we dumped Satoko's uncle's body, or where we were... where we dumped the motorcycle. And, yeah. It seemed that the light in the phone booth had recently been changed, as it shone with a vivid white light. Although in the gloom of Hinamizawa, it was nothing more than a gathering spot for moths. But in any case, I had finally found it. As my hand touched the door of the phone booth, I realized that I was breathing and sweating heavily. I didn't know what time it was right now, but even if it was for just a moment, I might be able to get in touch with Yuki. Since I had spent all this effort getting here, turning back without even giving it a try was out of the question. Before I picked up the receiver, another wave of uneasiness washed over me. I was worried that this phone cord might be severed as well. How was the cord in the phone booth? Squatting down, I followed the bundle of cables as they ran along the corner into the ceiling. At a glance, nothing was out of the ordinary. I ran my fingers as far as I could along the line to check it out. The only thing they found was a thick layer of dust. Nothing out of the ordinary. I wondered if it was popular in Hinamizawa to cut the cords of payphones as some sort of tasteless prank. It might be prudent to call Uisi-san and talk about this later. Even if it was nothing more than a prank, it was still vandalism of public property. In any case, this one was fine, this time. Pulling out a coin from my pocket in one hand, I picked up the receiver with the other. Also, isn't this the phone booth where Keiichi died at the end of the first chapter? But this time, before the receiver even reached my ear, I felt something was off. The receiver was light. It was more than a slightly unpleasant feeling. It felt almost sickening. To verify the source of my displeasure, I peered at the receiver in my hand with a measure of reluctance.
なんだよ。これ。
The coiled cord that connected the receiver to the rest of the phone had been ripped apart, the tip of the cable swaying in the air. Yeah, it's almost like somebody did this on purpose, and you're an idiot for constantly going to these phone booths and expecting them to not be this way. It was all I could do to restrain myself as a raw and unpleasant feeling worked its way up the small of my back. It was a type of dread. At that moment, I heard the crunch of somebody stepping on gravel. The light was reflecting off the glass walls of the booth, leaving me unable to see the outside into the darkness. I steeled myself and stepped out of the phone booth. The inside of the booth was lit with that strong light, which might have made it warmer in there. Just stepping outside, I could feel a chill wash over me. And there was the silhouette of a person. Please tell me it's Uisi. A small silhouette. Nope.
君は
it's Rika. The long hair of that silhouette was blown about by the cool breeze.
怪我人が病院を抜け出してはいけないのですよ。
That's true, Rika. We really shouldn't be. I can't believe that we did, honestly. Seems crazy. Somewhere in my head, I knew who this girl was. I didn't have any basis for it, but I knew she was that girl.
ねえ、赤坂。
She, Rika Furude, said that almost like it was a warning.
君が電話のコードを。
Her expression remained unchanged, and my question was left unanswered. In other words, no response. Regardless, I felt that she had affirmed my suspicions.
どうしてこんなことをするんだ。
Well, I got this new pair of scissors for my birthday. I wanted to try it out.
どうして。
The last word had a tinge of anger behind it. I frantically tried to smooth things out, but she didn't seem very afraid.
もうどうにもならないことです。
I interrupted her, or I interpreted her words as meaning I wasn't going to be in time for calling hours at the hospital. But, thinking about it, that would have been a strange thing to say. Why would she know something like that? I could take what she had said to have any other meaning. She just stood there like a mannequin, not even moving an inch. Almost to the point that the wind wasn't occasionally rustling through her long hair, there would be the illusion that time had stopped.
赤坂が私を気味悪く思っているのがよくわかる。
Well, it's because you're talking like an adult woman when you're a kid, which is funny, because normally little kids in visual novels and anime are adult women that are trying to sound like kids. So this is a new one on me.
ああ、いや、そんなことないよ。
Oh, man. My denial came out like a bad piece composed for slam... okay, that was word salad. Let's try that again. My denial came out almost like a bad piece composed for a poetry slam, but her words were right on the mark. I had always felt something ominous and uncanny about her. Ever since her strange threats at the shrine. Gee, I wonder why. It's almost like that was evidence that something weird had happened. There it is. She had noticed that my expression was contrary to my words, seemingly laughing at the gap between them.
赤坂の怖がり。
怖がってなんかいないよ。
What the heck is going on? Being laughed at by this small child didn't sit well with me. So I said that.
もう電話を探しても手遅れの時間です。
I already cut every phone line in Japan.
そうだな。
She didn't even have to say it. I was absolutely too late. I might have already missed calling hours even by the time I reached this phone booth. I was too late. I had no option but to give up for today. Once I decided that, my unhealthy obsession with the phone suddenly faded. Even I thought that it was strange that I was that obsessed. Maybe I don't want a daughter like Rika. No, I want a normal daughter. That strange obsession now gone, I began to laugh at how hopeless I was. I mean, just look at what I was wearing. It wasn't normal. A hospital gown and sandals. My head wrapped in bandages and my body completely soaked in sweat. It was a wonder that the old lady at the tobacco shop wasn't surprised to see me. Now, she sees people escaping from the insane asylum all the time. With wanting to hear Yuki's voice as my motive, I had traipsed around the town the entire evening. There's a word that we don't use anymore, traipsed. I didn't know whether to call it the follies of youth or simply plain embarrassing. In any case, it was all I could do but to laugh at myself.
もうこれで今夜赤坂がすることは何もないです。
そうだな。もう何もないよ。おとなしく病院へ引き上げるさ。
That's not gonna happen.
それがいいのですよ。病院への道はわかりますですか？
I do know the way to DMA.
わかるつもりだよ。
She waved her little hand as I began to head back the way I came. She began to follow alongside me. Looking at her face, I could see that she wore a mischievous smile, as if she was extremely interested in whether or not I would get lost.
リカちゃんの家もこっちの方向なのかい？
No, it's the opposite way. You've been to her house. Well, kind of.
なのですよ。
こんな時間に一人で表を歩いてるとご両親に怒られたりしないかい？
My parents don't care.
別に怒られませんです。今日はご両親は忙しい日なので、
Oh,
僕のことなど忘れていますですよ。
that's sad. Hugs for Rika.
それでも帰った方がいい。きっと怒るよ。
それでも赤坂とおしゃべりする方が面白いのでいいのです。
Okay, Rika. She said that with a face free from worry as she looked at me once more and smiled. When she showed me that smile, the eerie feelings surrounded her faded. But even then, she was still as mysterious to me as ever. We arrived at the corner I had turned at earlier. But it was much darker than before, and with the point of view changed on the return trip, I wasn't very confident that this was actually the corner I turned at. There's no mistake, it had to be this corner. As I began to move my feet again, the girl grabbed me onto my clothes.
赤坂は病院へ戻るのではないのですか？
Okay, Rika, personal space, alright?
もちろん戻るつもりだよ。道間違えた？
A short moment of silence. Eventually, still holding onto my clothes, she began to walk. It was the beginning of the walk to the hospital this mysterious girl would take me on. Oh, never, that's why she's getting close. She's like, "You're going the wrong way, you dipwad." Hey, Lackwit, you don't remember the way you came from? Jeez, you're almost as bad as that Artie guy when he's playing Lethal Company. Or driving somewhere he's never been before.